Trinity, Speech and Drama, Grade 6. First, I'll be performing a poem called The Sunshine Kid by Harry Baker. Old Man Sunshine was proud of his son, and it brightened his day to see his little boy run. Not because of what he'd done nor the problems overcome, but that despite that, his disposition remained a sunny one. It hadn't always been like this. There'd been times when he tried to hide his brightness. You see, every star hits periods of hardship. It takes a brighter light to inspire them through the darkness. If we go back to when he was born in a nebula, we know that he was never thought of as regular because he had a flair about him. To say the Midas touch is wrong, but all he went near seemed to turn a little bronze. Yes, this son was loved by some more than others. It was a case of Joseph and his dreamcoat and his brothers, because standing out from the crowd has its pros and cons, and jealousy created enemies and those he outshone, such as the shadow people. Now, the shadow people didn't like the Sunshine Kid because he showed up the dark things the shadow people did, and when he showed the places where the shadow people hid. So the shadow people had an evil plan to get rid of him. First up, they made fun of his sunspots, shooting his dreams from the sky that words were like gunshots, designed to remind him he wasn't very cool and he didn't fit in with any popular kids at school. They said his head was up in space and they would bring him down to earth. Essentially, he came from nothing and that was all he was worth. He'd never get to go to university to learn. Only degrees he'd ever show would be the first degree burned from those that came too close. They told him he was too bright. That's why no one ever looked him in the eyes. His judgment became clouded. So did the sky, with evaporated tears as the sun started to cry. Because the Sunshine Kid was bright, with a warm personality, and inside he burned savagely, hurt by the words and curses of the shadowy folk who spoke holes in his soul and left cavities, and as his heart hardened, his spark darkened. Every time they called him names it cooled his flames. He thought they might like him if he kept his light dim, but they were busy telling lightning she had terrible aim. He couldn't come to grips with what they said, so he let his light be eclipsed by what they said. He fell into a lone star state like Texas and felt like he'd been punched in his solar plexus. But that's when Lil Miss Sunshine came along, singing her favorite song about how we are meant to be strong and you don't have to be wrong to belong. Just be true to who you are, because we are all stars at heart. Lil Miss Sunshine was hot stuff. The kind of girl, when you looked at her, you forgot stuff. But for him, there was no forgetting her. The minute he saw her, her image burned in his retina. She was out of this world and she accepted him. Something about this girl meant he knew whenever she was next to him, things weren't as dark as they seemed. And he dared to dream shadows were nowhere to be seen, and when she was there, he beamed. His eyes would light up in ways that can't be faked. When she grinned, her rays erased the razor-tipped words of hate. They gave each other nicknames. They were Cool Star and Fun Sun. And gradually, the shadowy damage became undone. She was one in a septillion and she was brilliant. Could turn the coldest-blooded reptilian vermilion loved by billions, from Chileans to Brazilians, and taught the Sunshine Kid the meaning of resilience. She said, all the darkness in this world cannot put out the light from a single candle. So how the hell can they handle your light? Only you can choose to dim it, and the sky is the limit, so silence the critics by burning. And if eyes are the windows to the soul, she drew back the curtains and let the sun shine through the hurting. In a universe of adversity, these stars stuck together. And though days became nights, the memories would last forever. Whether the weatherman said it or not, it would be fine. Because even behind the clouds, the kid could still shine. Yes, the Sunshine Kid was bright, with a warm personality, and inside he burned savagely, fueled by the fire inspired across galaxies by the girl who showed him belief. Thank you. Next, I'll be performing an excerpt from Magnus Chase, The Sword of Summer. Good morning. You're gonna die. Yeah, I know. You guys are gonna read about how I died in agony, and you're gonna be like, wow, that's so cool, Magnus. Can I die in agony too? No. Just no. Don't go jumping off any rooftops. Don't run into the highway or set yourself on fire. It does not work that way. You will not end up where I ended up. Besides, you won't want to deal with my situation unless you've got some crazy desire to see undead warriors hacking one another to pieces, swords flying up giants' noses, and dark elves in snappy outfits. You shouldn't even think about finding the wolf-headed doors. My name is Magnus Chase. I'm 16 years old, and this is the story of how my life went downhill after I got myself killed. Well, my day started out normal enough. I was sleeping on the sidewalk under a bridge in the public garden when a guy kicked me awake and said, "They're after you." By the way, I've been homeless for the past 2 years. Some of you may think, oh, how sad. Others may think, haha, loser. But if you saw me on the street, 99% of you would walk right past me like I'm invisible. You'd pray, don't let him ask for my money. You'd wonder if I'm older than I look, because surely a teenager wouldn't be wrapped in a stinky old blanket, in a stinky old sleeping bag stuck outside in the middle of a Boston winter. Somebody should help that kid. Somebody should help that poor boy. Then you'd keep walking. Whatever. I don't need your sympathy. I'm used to being laughed at. I'm definitely used to being ignored. Let's move on. Thank you. Now I should be performing a speech called The Tryst of Destiny by Jawaharlal Nehru. Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny. And now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge. Not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom. A moment comes which comes but rarely in history, when we step out from the old to the new. When an age ends and when the soul of a nation, long suppressed, finds utterance. It is fitting that at this solemn moment, we take the pledge of dedication to the service of India and her people, and to the still larger cause of humanity. At the dawn of history, India started on her unending quest, and trackless centuries are filled with her striving and the grandeur of her successes and her failures. Through good and ill fortune alike, she has never lost sight of the quest or forgotten the ideals which gave her strength. We end today a period of ill fortune, and India discovers herself again. The achievement we celebrate today is but a step, an opening of opportunity to the greater triumphs and achievements that await us. Are we brave enough and wise enough to grasp this opportunity and accept the challenge of the future? Freedom and power bring responsibility. That responsibility rests upon this assembly, a sovereign body representing the sovereign people of India. Before the birth of freedom, we have all endured the pains of labor, and our hearts are heavy with the memory of this sorrow. Some of those pains continue even now. Nevertheless, the past is over, And it is the future that beckons to us now. The future is not one of ease or resting, but of incessant striving so that we may fulfill the pledges we have so often taken, and the one we shall take today. The service of India means the service of the millions who suffer. It means the ending of poverty and ignorance and disease and inequality of opportunity. The ambition of the greatest man of our generation has been to wipe every tear from every eye. That may be beyond us, but so long as there are tears and suffering, so long our work will not be over. And so we have to labor and to work. And work hard to give reality to our dreams. Those dreams are for India, but they're also for the world. For all the nations and people are too closely knit together for any of them to imagine that it can live apart. Peace has been said to be indivisible. So is freedom, so is prosperity now, and so also is disaster. In this one world that can no longer be split into isolated fragments, to the people of India, whose representatives we are, we make appeal to join us with faith and confidence in this great adventure. This is no time for petty and destructive criticism, no time for ill will or blaming others. We have to build the noble mansion of free India where all of our children may reside. Thank you. Now, I shall be going on to the on-site reading task. I'll be doing Curious, If True, Stranger Tales by Elizabeth Gaskell. I am determined in my wish to know everything. I'll return at 10 tomorrow morning and then expect to see Mistress Lucy herself. I turned away, having my own suspicions, I confess, as to Mistress Clark's sanity. I could hardly sleep. I rose early and long before the hour I had appointed. I was on the path over the common that led to the old farmhouse where they lived. I suppose that Lucy had passed no better a night than I, for there she was also, slowly pacing with her even step, with her eyes bent down. She stopped when I came close to her and grew paler as I reminded her of my appointment. My heart gave forth words of fire, and my tongue uttered them. Her colour went and came as she listened, but when I had ended my passionate speeches, she lifted her soft eyes to me and said, "But you know that you have something yet to learn about me. I only want to say this. I shall not think less of you. Less well of you, I mean, if you too fall away from me when you know everything." "Stop," she said, as if hearing another burst of mad words. "Listen to me. My father is a man of great wealth. I never knew my mother. She must have died when I was very young. When first I remember anything, I was living in a great lonely house with my dear and faithful Mistress Clark. My father even was not there. He is a soldier, and his duties lie abroad. But he came from time to time, and every time I think he loved me more and more. He brought me rarities from foreign lands, which prove to me now how much he must have thought of me during his absences." Thank you. Now coming on to the questions. The first question I'll be answering is what I felt the most challenging piece was. For me, I felt my most challenging piece was definitely the speech, because in this case I was not addressing a singular audience or an audience that had no expectations of me. I was definitely giving that speech in order to inspire and inculcating that tone and understanding that I'm addressing an assembly as well as all of free India, including that in the tone and the way I said it. Also having that body language of someone who's confident in the speech that they're giving. Incorporating all of that was a challenging aspect that I had to work on separately. As for my staging, the staging I did experiment a bit, and I tried to have my stage with plain backgrounds where I'd be prominently visible, but there was always the problem of bright lighting or a light being directly behind me that made the main focus of the piece invisible. It was too bright, so I was getting blurred out. So I finally decided on this. A few measures I took was clear everything from around me, and I made sure that there was nothing that would distract the audience from my piece and from my character, so that I was in the spotlight. And I ensured that there was a relatively plain background, so I did not camouflage with it, and I was prominently visible. Finally, for safer and effective performances, I made sure that this place was empty. I had enough space to walk around, to emote, to move my arms around. There were a few objects with sharp corners which I moved away and out of the stage. And incorporating this with the previous answer as well, made sure to have enough lighting such that I was illuminated, but it didn't hinder with the performance, or it didn't come in the way of my performance. And I kept my paper just out of frame, and I had to make sure that it was kept in such a way that it did not distract the audience, or it wasn't placed in a manner that it might be distracting. Finally, the last question I'll be answering is how I use my voice and body to show contrasting emotions. As for my first piece, the poem, it's meant to be conveying an emotion of somebody trying to find their confidence again, somebody who's undergoing bullying. So I start off with a very deep tone and a very solemn tone whenever the Sunshine Kid is being picked on. And as I move forward, wherever there are hard-hitting points, whether he's being bullied or whether he's being brought up by Little Miss Sunshine, I try to increase my pace and hit those words hard wherever they're rhyming and they make sense. And wherever there were hard-hitting, impactful one-liners, I made sure to slow down my pace and ensure that I was able to convey that impact to the audience. As for my body, I tried to keep an open body language when I was talking about Little Miss Sunshine. I kept my gestures broad. In the same way, in my next performance, I was talking about this kid who is definitely trying to put out hard outer appearance as though he does not care about the audience. So I made sure to convey that closed off emotion by crossing my arms whenever I'm saying whatever or mocking the audience. And whenever there are lines when I'm trying to give to the audience like, "Oh my god, Magnus, that is so cool," I made sure that my voice is very high pitched and it's very clearly visible that I think that the audience is, I'm able to convey to the audience that this is not something, I'm mocking them and this is not something they should be doing. And finally, for my last piece, which was the speech, trying to convey that confident and inspiring speech, because this is meant to be a speech said at when India was getting independence. It was a huge landmark. So I tried to bring that confidence into my body language. I kept my shoulders squared up, and my gestures were also more in fists and to show symbols of power. And also when talking and when speaking, I tried to keep my voice deep but also loud in such a manner as though I'm addressing a hall or an assembly in this case. These were a few measures I took to show these contrasting emotions. And that's it. Thank you.